Hello all and welcome to Parry's Pickups. Now I didn't think I'd be saying that again. So Parry's Pickups is a series I used to do here on the channel for a very long period of time, but I decided to change up a bit, do something that was different. However, it seemed like the best format in order to do this particular video today. So today I'm just going to talk about Master System pickups I've made recently, because I've got heavily back into the Master System in the last month, I would say, and I've picked up a few games that I want to talk about, and this seemed like perfect sort of platform for that kind of conversation. So I'm going to show a few games, show a bit of gameplay footage to accompany those games, and let you know my thoughts on some recent Master System pickups. I've just reached for the first one on the pile, and that's Columns. So I'm fond of Columns. I think it's a great puzzle game. I'm trying to think where I first might have played Columns, probably on the Game Gear, and this Master System version is great. Interestingly, one of the modes, it has some very familiar sounding music, and I could be wrong about this, but it sounds like one of the tracks, or at least part of one of the tracks, on I think the Game Boy version of Tetris DX specifically. Some of the music sounds very familiar, which is a bit odd. I haven't investigated it any more than that, but that's Columns. Columns is your typical, you match the colours, blocks fall and you match the colours. It is different from Tetris. It's things fall in columns, as the name would suggest, and of course you can create lines at angles and such, so it is a little bit different and it's a lot of fun. So that's classed under the family brand of Master System games. Interesting. The next one up is The Jungle Book. So I'm quite a fan of the Disney platform games. I really enjoyed The Lion King on the Master System. Also, Aladdin, and obviously been quite a few. Anything like Mickey. If you check out the channel, that I did a live stream of Castle of Illusion for the Master System starring Mickey Mouse. Fantastic game. So my hopes were high for this particular Disney game. It's okay. I think Mowgli controls a bit stiff, which creates some sort of frustrating gameplay. The first stage you're looking for gems, so you just have to sort of traverse the level, swinging on vines, jumping platforms, but everything feels a bit awkward to me in this particular game. And if you haven't, you probably won't be able to see there, but this is the German version of the game. I neglected to notice that when I purchased it, but I don't really mind. It's called the Dschungelbuch. Probably butchered that pronunciation, but an okay game. But I think there are better Disney platform games on the Master System. Looks nice, good graphics. Another game that looks very nice is Chuck Rock 2 Son of Chuck. Platform game, sequel to the original Chuck Rock, where you played as the titular character Chuck Rock. Now you play as his son, 18 months after his victory over Gary Gritter. Let's leave that there. Chuck Rock is now the owner of the hugely successful Chuck Motors and has become a father, kidnapped by his evil enemy Brick Jagger. Wow. Chuck Rock is likely to become Chuck Dust unless somebody rescues him. A sudden crash as Chuck Jr. bursts from his playpen. Goo goo gaga, I'll be back. Wonderful little synopsis of the game on the back there. I do miss that in modern games. I always think that these older ones were written with a lot of humour and a lot of wit, and now you just get a few screenshots and there's not that sort of more human friendly element. Games has become such a big industry now that I miss this sort of when it was more niche. Anyway, the game. It's a good platformer, it's got good graphics, it has insanely irritating music. Insanely. I will not say the music is a strong point of this particular game. However, it is fun, and I say it's a very impressive looking platformer for the Master System. First boss battle was a bit boring as well, so yeah, not perfect by any means, but you know, a good one. You know, it's not the cheapest. I think this cost me close to £20 for this particular game, which is more than I would usually like to spend. But would I say it's worth it? Nearly. It's nearly worth £20. If you can get it cheaper, I suggest you do that. A game which is incredibly affordable. Don't pay a lot of money for this. The Ninja, very common Master System game, one of the early ones, as you can tell by the terrible, terrible box art. But it's overhead. It's kind of like an overhead shooter, but you're on foot and you play as a ninja and you fire projectiles out at enemies who fire projectiles out at you. Sometimes they hide behind rocks and then suddenly they'll appear, and yeah, it's you wrestle with the controls a bit. He's not the most easy to maneuver character, the ninja, but it's a fun game. It's a good challenge. It's very arcade style. You will, until you learn this game, you probably will die a lot in the game. However, it keeps you coming back for more. It's good. It's a good arcade style game, which is satisfying. You know, it's punishing difficulty. When you do it, it's, you know, you feel a great sense of achievement. So that's the Ninja, and kind of a similar game actually. Overhead shooter avoiding projectiles, but this time you are you play as Ashura, and or to get it's also 2 players. It says, in search of your captured friends, you as Ashura, or together with your comrade-in-arms Bishamon, infiltrate far into the vast enemy stronghold. Use auto-rifle and auto-grenade against such foes as riflemen, bazooka soldiers, artillerymen, and a host of others. Really creative names for the enemies. But as you can see by the footage, it's overhead, and yeah, it's quite funny. It feels sluggish if you're playing on at least a PAL system where everything's slower. If you play this at its correct speed, it feels quite a bit nicer to play, I would. So I try and play this on either a US or Japanese Master System, or at least a modded Master System that will allow faster gameplay at 60 Hz as opposed to 50. But it's good, and an interesting story about this particular game is, I think in the US it was branded as a Rambo game. I think it has Rambo on the cover. I think it's Rambo 3, could be wrong, no, could be wrong, just Rambo. Anyway, it was branded as a Rambo game in the US. I don't think it was originally in Japan, and here it's certainly not. And obviously uses the Japanese character names in it as well, but yeah. Of course, this character isn't very appealing. It probably would have done a lot better if it was Rambo. Probably would have sold a lot better than with this somewhat terrible box art. It's not even clear if that's a guy or a girl. It's the weapon is somewhat cartoonish. Looks like a harpoon or a space laser. Anyhow, I think that about wraps it up for this episode of Parry's Pickups. I really didn't think I'd be saying that again. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. You've maybe discovered some games you maybe weren't aware of before, or just enjoy watching some footage of some classic Master System retro games. And the Master System, for anyone in Europe, the UK, the Master System was absolutely huge, and I know a lot of YouTube content is probably more US focused, because obviously there's a lot of people in the US and a lot of people making videos about video games. but they tend to focus a lot on the Nintendo side of things, like the NES for this era of gaming, whereas the Master System was equally, I think, as popular over here, maybe even more popular over here in the UK. It's certainly the only... I didn't play an NES growing up at all, so I don't have that nostalgia. This is my NES, this is my sort of real introduction into gaming, and the Master System as a console and the games for it, they mean quite a lot to me in terms of my first sort of introduction to video games. Anyway, I could just chat about Master System all day long, but I noticed this video is about 10 minutes, so we'll probably leave it there. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did like it, put a little like, helps, helps more people see the videos. I know you've heard this a million times on YouTube, but unfortunately that's the way YouTube works, and if you want to see more of things like this, then you can always subscribe as well. You don't have to, but if you want to, then yeah, please do. We'll very much appreciate it. Anyway, thanks so much, and I'll see you again another time. Game on!